Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So, be entertained. Guys, I've got a story for you today that is absolutely wild. Grab your snacks and grab a seat, people. If you're new here and love a good story, go ahead and subscribe to join the community. Don't forget to like this video and share it if it to your squad, leave a comment, and make sure that notification bell is on. Ready? Let's go in.
Protocol, Matriarch Chapter 2, League Night, Part 1, The Vanishing Act. The SUV tore down the quiet Ohio street, leaving the smell of burnt rubber and ozone in its wake. Inside, the silence was heavy. Ilara sat in the passenger seat, the stolen agency pistol resting heavy on her lap. She kept looking at Marcus, then at the rearview mirror, half expecting the suburbs to dissolve into the white steel hallways of her glitches. "You have a railgun in the garage, Marcus," Ilara said, her voice eerily calm. "And our neighbors are a tactical squad. We need to talk about construction accidents." Marcus kept his eyes on the road, his hands white-knuckled on the wheel. "I was a guardian, Ilara. Not for the agency, for you. When the professor ordered the purge, I couldn't let them erase you completely. I took a deal to keep you hidden. As long as you stayed dormant, they stayed away." "And Leo?" "Leo is the variable they didn't account for," Marcus muttered. "He's the reason the haze is breaking." Part 2, The Lucky Strike. They pulled into the back lot of the bowling alley. Sarah, Bill, and Jax were already there, moving with a synchronized efficiency that made Ilara's skin crawl. They didn't look like neighbors anymore. They looked like a unit. Inside, the neon lights of the Lucky Strike flickered. Bill jammed a crowbar into a floor panel behind the shoe rental counter, revealing a heavy, reinforced lift. "Welcome to the sub-basement," Jack said, his conspiracy theorist chatter replaced by technical jargon. "Or as I like to call it, the only place on Earth that doesn't exist on a satellite map." The lift dropped, and the bowling alley scent of floor wax was replaced by the sterile, recycled air of a high-tech bunker. Racks of sleek, carbon fiber armor and pulse rifles lined the walls. Part 3, The Friction. As Sarah began prepping a medical scanner for Leo, Ilara grabbed Marcus by the vest, shoving him against a weapon locker. The squad froze. 3 years, Ilara hissed. "I thought we were building a life. I thought we were safe. Was any of it real? Or was I just a billion-dollar asset you were assigned to watch?" Marcus didn't fight her. He looked down at her with the same eyes she remembered from their wedding, eyes that didn't fit a cold-blooded soldier. "The mission was to keep you dormant, Ilara. But I fell in love with a woman who woke up every morning and made lemon bars. That wasn't the conditioning. That was me." Before she could respond, an alarm blared. Red lights bathed the bunker. Part 4, The Tracking. Jax frantically typed at a console. "Boss, we've got a problem. The agents you pinned in the kitchen? They weren't the extraction team. They were the markers." "Explain," Ilara commanded, her voice regaining that commander rasp. "They didn't come to take Leo. They came to tag him. Leo's golden sparks? They're emitting a subspace frequency. The agency isn't sending more suits. They've authorized an orbital precision strike on these coordinates." Ilara looked at her son, who was blissfully playing with a stray screwdriver on the floor. "We can't stay here," Sarah said, loading a submachine gun. "If that satellite locks on, this bowling alley becomes a crater." Part 5, The Choice. Ilara looked at the gear on the walls. Her mind glitched again, a memory of a bridge, a command, a sacrifice. She reached for a tactical jacket, sliding it over her Mama Bear shirt. "We aren't just running," Ilara said. "Jax, can you mask Leo's signal? For 20 minutes, maybe. If I use the bowling alley's main power grid to create a feedback loop." "Do it," Ilara ordered. "Bill, get the heavy ordnance. Sarah, you're on point. Marcus." She paused, looking at her husband. "You're with me. If the professor wants his commander back, let's show him what happens when she's had a very bad Tuesday." "Where are we going, boss?" Bill asked, a grim grin spreading across his face. Ilara snapped a fresh power cell into a pulse rifle. "To the local agency safe house. If they're tracking us, it's time we used their own front door." Protocol, Matriarch Chapter 2, League Night, Part 6, The Raid. The Approach. The safe house was a nondescript, normal dental office on the edge of town. To the neighbors, it was just Dr. Eris's clinic, but as the SUV killed its lights 2 blocks away, Elara saw it for what it truly was, a fortified listening post protected by a Class 4 kinetic shield. "The shield is tied to the local power grid," Jax whispered, tapping into his tablet. "I'm feeding them a loop of a peaceful Tuesday morning, but the moment we breach the perimeter, the professor's local security will wake up." Elara checked the weight of the pulse rifle. It felt like an extension of her own arm. She looked at Marcus. He was checking his sidearm, his face a mask of focus, but he kept glancing at her, searching for a glimpse of the wife he knew behind the cold eyes of the commander. "The breach." "Go," Elara commanded. They moved as a shadow. Bill didn't use explosives. He used a localized EMP charge on the back service door. With a muffled thump, the electronic lock gave way. They were inside. The interior was sterile, white, and smelled of ozone. Motion-sensing turrets dropped from the ceiling, but Sarah was faster, taking them out with 2 precise bursts from her suppressed submachine gun before they could even swivel. "Sloppy," Elara rasped, her tactical mind analyzing the layout. "They didn't expect us to hit back this soon. They're overconfident." The laboratory. They reached the central hub, a room filled with glowing canisters and databanks. In the center, a holographic display showed a map of the Ohio suburbs, with a bright red pulse centered on their own house. They were recording everything, Elara breathed, staring at the screens. She saw footage of her making breakfast, of Marcus playing in the yard with Leo. It was her life, pinned to a board like a butterfly. "Commander, look," Marcus called out from a terminal. On the screen was a file labeled Project Matriarch, Stage 3. It showed a blueprint of Leo's DNA, intertwined with a golden energy signature that looked like a star chart. "They aren't just watching him," Marcus said, his voice thick with rage. "They're trying to trigger a supernova event. They want to use the kid as a localized battery for a jump gate." "The counterattack." "Not on my watch," Elara said. Suddenly, the lights turned a deep, bruised purple. The doors hissed shut, locking them in. A voice crackled over the intercom, smooth, condescending, and familiar. "Commander, I must say, your recovery time is impressive. But you always did have a remarkably resilient psyche." "Vain," Elara spat, looking toward the security camera. "In the flesh. Well, in the signal," the professor replied. "You've made a mess of my agents, Nova. But you've brought the asset right to my collection point. Did you really think Marcus could hide you forever? He was a loyal dog, but even dogs get tired." "We're taking this facility down, Vane," Elara said, stepping toward the main server. "You can try. But I've just authorized the cleaning crew. They're 5 minutes out. And Elara, they don't use suppressed pistols. They use orbital-grade lances." The stand. Elara looked at her squad. Bill was already planting thermite charges on the databanks. Jax was trying to download the DNA files. Sarah was watching the door. If you made it this far, thank you for the support, friends. Please like and share the video, it helps the channel. Let's continue. Part 7, Change of Plans, Elara said, her voice echoing with authority. "Jax, forget the files. Overload the core. If we can't take the data, we burn the house down. Marcus, get Leo back to the SUV." "No. I'm not leaving you here," Marcus protested. "That's an order, soldier." Elara snapped. The word hung in the air, sharp and cold. Marcus hesitated, then nodded. He scooped up Leo, who was staring at the purple lights with wide, fascinated eyes. "Don't be late for dinner, Elara." As Marcus disappeared down the hallway, the far wall of the lab exploded. 4 purge troopers, in heavy mechanized armor, stepped through the smoke. Elara didn't flinch. She snapped her pulse blade open and checked her ammo count. "Let's see how these suits handle a very bad Tuesday," she whispered. "Let's just jump into the next comment and subscribe." Part 6, Purge Troopers. The troopers didn't move like men, they moved like hydraulic presses. Their armor was a matte, light-absorbing black, laced with glowing red cooling vents that hissed in the sterile air of the lab. They carried heavy rotary cannons that began to whine, spinning up to a lethal RPM. Jax, Bill, get that core ready to blow. Sarah, cover the flank. Ilara shouted, her voice cutting through the mechanical hum. The first strike. The lead trooper opened fire. A stream of white-hot plasma shredded the medical consoles where Ilara had stood a second before. She didn't retreat, she utilized the glitch. Her mind perceived the trajectory of the bolts before they left the barrel. She vaulted over a diagnostic table, her boots skidding on the polished floor. As she moved, she fired 3 precise bursts from her pulse rifle. The blue bolts splashed harmlessly against the trooper's kinetic shield, but that wasn't the goal. She was aiming for the floor sensors. The environmental kill. With the sensors blown, the room's gravity stabilizers flickered. For a heartbeat, the 800-pound troopers became weightless. Now, Bill. Bill swung his railgun, a massive piece of hardware that looked more like a ship's component than a rifle. He fired a solid tungsten slug. Without gravity to anchor him, the lead trooper was launched backward like a discarded toy, smashing through a reinforced glass partition and into the vacuum of the server's coolant tank. The liquid nitrogen flash froze the suit instantly. The blade symphony. The remaining 3 troopers recalibrated, their magnetic boots slamming back onto the floor with a heavy clank. They discarded their long-range weapons and unsheathed vibrating monoswords. Ilara dropped her rifle. It was too slow for close quarters. She snapped her collapsible pulse blade to its full length. The hum of the blue energy met the red hiss of the troopers' blades. She moved in a blur of mama bear, cotton, and silver steel. 180-degree spin. Duck. Parry. She was a whirlwind of lethal geometry. She slid under the guard of the second trooper, her blade find the soft joint at the knee. She didn't just cut, she twisted. The power cell in the leg exploded, sending the trooper crashing down. Commander! The core is at 90%. Jax yelled, his fingers flying over a holographic keypad while Sarah traded shots with the third trooper at the doorway. The commander's finisher. The fourth trooper, the largest of the squad, lunged at Ilara. He grabbed her by the throat with a mechanized gauntlet, lifting her off the ground with bone-crushing force. Her boots dangled inches from the floor as the trooper's internal servos whined with power. "You are obsolete," the trooper's vocoder growled, the red visor inches from her face. Ilara didn't panic. She didn't claw at his hand. Instead, she reached into the hidden mom pocket of her tactical vest. Her fingers closed around the grip of the backup subcompact pistol she'd swiped from the agent back in her kitchen. She didn't aim for the chest plate. She jammed the muzzle directly into the glowing red neck vent, the only unshielded gap in the heavy plating. The suppressed rounds shredded the delicate cooling lines and internal circuitry at point-blank range. Sparks erupted from the trooper's collar as the suit's life support suffered a catastrophic failure. The pressurized gauntlet hissed and lost power, dropping her to the floor. The commander's finisher. Ilara hit the ground in a crouch. As the trooper staggered, blinded by his own internal electrical fire, she grabbed the fallen trooper's monosword and drove it upward through the weakened chest plate with every ounce of her strength. The escape. Core at 100%. 10 seconds. Bill roared over the sound of the crumbling lab. Exit. Now. They sprinted down the hallway, the walls beginning to groan as the core went critical. They dove through the back service door just as the brutalist dental office turned into a pillar of blue fire, the shockwave tossing them onto the grass of the empty parking lot. Ilara rolled to her feet, covered in soot and coolant, her breathing ragged. Across the lot, the SUV was waiting. Marcus's face was visible through the windshield, his hand pressed against the glass in a silent, desperate plea. Ilara looked back at the burning safe house. The commander was fully awake now, but as she looked at her wedding ring, she knew one thing for certain. "Vane," she whispered into the wind, "you're going to wish you'd left me in Ohio."
We will end our story here for today. For those who made it to the end, you're an awesome power. Thanks for watching. If you found value in today's story, like, share, and subscribe to help the channel reach more people. Make sure that notification bell is turned on so you're always in the loop. I want to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment below. Are you not entertained? I'll catch you in the next video. Peace, friends.